All right, hey everybody. Thanks for coming by again. Just trying to get my camera somewhat centered. I don't have a lot of room on my desk, so I got to work with what I got. Okay. All right, so we're continuing on with this wolf drawing. This is part 3. We're using charcoal pencils. These are the charcoal pencils I'm using. This brand is called Royal brand. I just got this set from Amazon, and I'm really happy with it so far. It's a nice set. And it also came with this little Prismacolor uh, white pastel for doing highlights. And then we're going to be using blending stomps and a kneadable eraser. All right, so we're just continuing on. We've already traced it and added it to our paper. Some of the stuff there. Putting a white piece of paper down so I don't make any marks on this part of the paper over here. We're just continuing on with those shadows and highlights. All right, so I think I'll start working in the ear again. I did get my reference photo. I posted it in the description below, I believe. If it's not there, I'll make sure it's there by the time we finish the video. All right, so I'm just going to bring up my reference photo on my computer to look at. Okay. And if you have any questions, just type them over there in the chat bar and I will take time to answer them for you. I apologize if my husband rudely interrupts us. He kind of does that. Anyway, I was hoping it was going to be cooler today, but it's another hot one. We don't have AC in our house, so it's going to get a little warm in here. All right, so continuing on in this ear. So the first layers aren't going. They're just your when you block it in. It's basically just blocking in your colors, your shadows and highlights. You're not going to have a lot of texture showing in your first layer. We're pretty much on our first layer. We're getting ready to move into the second layer. There's really no definite point where one layer ends and the next begins, but basically the first layer is after you've gotten the entire image drawn on your paper and shadowed and blocked in with color. All right, so that's all I'm doing here, and I'm just use my blending stomp to blend it around to add the texture. And like I always say, this is much like sculpting in 2D. You are leaving indents in your paper, which does sculpt it. So I have a medium charcoal pencil and a hard charcoal pencil. The medium is much softer, obviously, and the hard is much harder. So the hard pencils tend to leave lighter and thinner strokes for the fine details. I don't know if you can see that. And the harder or the softer pencil, the medium, is softer and leaves, obviously softer, a little thicker lines. And it's easier to blend. So when you want darker areas, use a medium charcoal pencil. I wouldn't go with a completely soft pencil. Unfortunately, I don't have a soft charcoal pencil because it kept breaking off in my pencil sharpener. So I've been using my black soft pastel, my Rembrandt soft pastel, for the darkest darks. And they coincide. You can use pastels and charcoal together. You really can't use charcoal and graphite and pastels so well. They don't really blend. All right, so continuing on. Unfortunately, I can't play music in the background because of copyright rules on YouTube, so it might get a little boring and quiet to listen to, but I'll try to keep you entertained. Music is nice when you're drawing and painting because it kind of gets you in a little zone. You can kind of just zone everything out and just flow into your work. I got my reference photo from a website called pixabay.com. And like I said, I'm going to post the link for that in the description. Pixabay is a Creative Commons website where you can find reference photos and art, graphics and things to use that are royalty free. And they don't require a license or anything like that. That's always good to do. I normally like to take my own reference photos and, visit zoos and wildlife parks and things like that. Unfortunately, my camera got ruined at the seawall. And it got splashed by the spouting horn. I've been without a camera for, oh gosh, almost a year already. As you know, nice cameras are expensive, so I just haven't had it in my budget to splurge for a camera yet. I'm working on it. If you would like to support me and help me get that camera, I do have a Patreon channel and I have lots of cool giveaways and prizes and monthly subscription packages for people who subscribe. So I'm just continuing getting the values. The values are your dark and lights, variations of gray. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. All right, now I'm going to continue. So it's a little darker in my reference. I wish I could show you the reference photo at the same time, but it's a little darker in this area here. So I'm just going to keep adding layers right here to darken it up. I do intend to, when I finish this painting, picture, drawing, whatever you want to call it, I will edit my videos into a much faster, sped up version that doesn't take, 6 hours to watch. And then I'll probably do voiceover commentary and make a quicker tutorial that you can, if you're a subscriber on my Patreon page, you'll have access to that. Well, the good news is the fires seem to have slowed down a bit. There's not as much smoke in the air, but I do still have a bit of a scratchy throat. I like to use my blending stomp a lot for putting in texture. You could also use your hard charcoal pencil if you wanted to put in these little hairs. That's just fine. But I like the blending stomp because it's softer. It creates a softer line. I do have white pastel in this area where the white hairs are in the ear already from the last video. And that's going to help soften the fur, the look, the texture. You can also, instead of holding a point like this, you can turn your pencil sideways and just kind of use like a calligraphy kind of touch to get just kind of sideways. And it doesn't, that won't mar your paper as badly as if you do it straight on up and down where the point is sharp and it could scratch your paper. The scratches will show up in your painting, you know, when the light reflects just right, and it's just like the first thing your eye will go to. And it's a kind of a bummer if that happens. I'm just adding some texture and value. Another thing that helps is when you have your reference photo up on your computer to convert it to black and white so that it's in the grayscales. It makes it a little easier for you to tell, you know, to see the values. Just getting that hair texture in there. And you always go with the flow. You can see, you know, some hair will be going like this, and some hair is thicker and shorter, and some of it's going to come out the top of the head. So just follow the flow of your reference photo, the direction of the hair that it's flowing. All right, so now on my reference photo, I can see that there's the fur right in here. There's like a white, kind of like a white line, not a line, but a white definition right there. So I'm going to use my kneadable eraser and kind of remove a little bit of color right there. And then I'll go back over it with my white pastel to make the whiter white. I'm planning on finishing this tonight. I hope I get it finished tonight. I might have to bring up some music. Music does help you work faster. I will just use the Creative Commons music site where I get music for my YouTube work in progress videos. It's not the best music to listen to while you work, but it's something. So, and now I'm just reblending in some of the fur into that. So this is the Prismacolor white pastel. It looks pretty good. I do think I still like the Rembrandt's better. This is my Rembrandt white pastel. It just has, I think it has much more intense pigment, and it's a little softer. I think I'll just keep using the blending stomp for this part. All right, that looks pretty good. I think I'll add a little bit more white up here in the ear, in these hairs. And we really, since I have these marks, I used carbon paper when I transferred, and carbon doesn't erase like graphite does. So unfortunately, there's these little marks here. But like I said, mistakes usually happen for a reason, and it'll become something really cool eventually in final painting. So that's all right. All right, I think I'm just gonna call it good. No, maybe for the ear, I think I'll do a little bit of white texture with the pastel. Some little dots here and there. Actually, there's a little bit of more black in here too, in the front part of the hair. Just kind of do some. Apologize, but my husband was in the other room and he had the hiccups. So that's what the weird noise is. It's just a continuous back and forth, dark to light, dark to light. I'm using my black pastel to darken this up even more in these parts that are, really, really black. The best way to make something look whiter or lighter is to make darken areas around it. So it just takes time. It takes a lot of time to create anything. That's just how it goes. You just have to have patience and keep on going. If there's anything you guys would like to see me draw, just put it in the comments below. I can draw literally anything. If there's anything you'd like to learn to draw, I'll work on a nice little tutorial for you. I do have a white pastel pencil. Unfortunately, just like my dark pastel pencil, it just continually breaks off in the sharpener and I never get to use it. So thank goodness I have this to get some little finer hair strokes in there. It's really frustrating when you spend money on things that you can't even use because the quality just isn't there. And then when you start, you're just not really sure what to do next, just move on to a different part of your picture. That's what we're gonna do. I think the ear is looking pretty good. We'll add more to it later, of course. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start moving down. Sometimes it's nice to, start from one side of your paper and move across just to keep it from smudging together. I'm just gonna, on my wolf picture, it is really white around the edges, so I'm just gonna keep adding the white pastel. And like I said, we will be adding something in here to cover up these marks, and by doing so, we'll actually make this look much whiter. So don't worry that you can't really see the white yet. You will when we go around the edges and darken around the edges. You can use your fingers to blend. And you don't have to worry about there being detail. When you want to add, just get the color in there. You can go over top of it with the detail with your charcoal pencils. I'm going to go ahead and start working on the face a little more. This is a little darker, has some darker hairs through here. Carry all the way down into the middle between the two eyes right in here. And it's just within anything you want to do well. It just takes lots of time and practice, practice, practice. Some of the pupil in your eye areas. All right, I'm going to go grab some music. Just a second. This is a bit loud out there. I always say the hardest part of painting is finding good music to listen to. See what I mean? You never know what you're going to get. But that's not what we want. All right, that sounds all right. All right, continuing on. If anyone knows of any places to listen to music, good music, that will be allowed by YouTube, it's not going to be copyright infringement, please let me know. Gosh, I am just really desperate for some decent music to listen to during these videos. really frustrating because I thought, classical music, how can that be copyrighted? That was created hundreds of years ago by someone else, but apparently people got around that and made it their own. The music, the copyright laws are different for music than they are for art. It seems like the copyright law is a little different from no matter what medium you are. And it's a little frustrating for artists. All right, so I'm noticing there's on my reference photo, this part in here is really white, and I already do have white pastel in there, so you just can't see it. So that means I need to darken up around the edges. I'm using my hard pastel, the lightest one. I'm just going to go in and do a little shading using the side of the pencil lead and the tip of the pencil, and following the stroke, the movement of the fur. Sorry about that. That was pretty terrible music, wasn't it? Sounds like someone just went going. All right, continuing on. There's just not much to talk to tell after, after you get your tracing in there. You got your first layer in there, and then it's just, like I said, adding the darker values and subtracting some highlights. Okay. Oh yeah. So one thing I like to do is, when I've gotten pretty far or whatever, I'll turn my picture upside down. And I'll also turn my reference photo upside down. And that helps to tighten it up. Kind of to check yourself, make sure you got things lined up the way they should be. And I was working on the nose on the last video. I think I'm going to continue working on the nose. The noses, remember, they're not just straight black. There's a very subtle values of black. If anybody's watching, please leave a comment. Join the chat room. I'm right here. I will be happy to chat with you. Happy to answer any questions about anything. This is a little lighter than I think it should be, so I'm just going to go ahead and blend it in as well. This little highlight right here. Medium pencil. Like I said, I use the black pastel to do the darkest parts. And with the blending stomp and blend it, smooth it out. Spread around the pigment. Remember to think about what does the texture of the nose feel like. It's going to be wet. It's going to be leathery. Just thinking about the texture and things when you're creating it, I think it does help the final look become more of what you're going for. I'm going to use my kneadable eraser to go in and kind of add some highlights. So highlights doesn't necessarily mean white, it's just lightening, making the value a little lighter in places. So like around the nostrils, it's very slightly lighter in color. All right, I think I'm going to continue on down like around the mouth now, get that a little more defined. Get the darker parts in there better. So it looks like the upper lip isn't quite as dark as the lower lip. So you'll have this where the nose comes to a point. There'll be a little line that goes down from the nose to the bottom of the upper, well, I call it a lip. I guess they have lips, I don't know. And then smooth it out. And now I can see where I need to begin the bottom darkening. So it'll be below that line that I just made. Oh, another problem with listening to this channel, or it's not a channel, it's a website, is that you can only play one song at a time. And you have to go find a new song. Oh my goodness. Oh yes. The Sims music. It's not really the Sims music, but it reminds me of Sims. It's actually good music to work to. It's nice and peppy. Makes you feel like you're building stuff. So when you're adding in your pastel, you don't have to get every single stroke in there. You just lay down some pigment and then you just spread it around with your blending stomp. If you're in the Oregon area, I do painting parties as well. I guide you through an acrylic painting, 16 by 20 painting. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to complete one. It's a lot of fun. You just go to a restaurant or bar and we all get together and hang out and paint. And just check out my website if you would like to learn more information about that at www.wisetalesart.com or Pacific Coast Paint and Party on Facebook. So I really do wish that my white pastel pencil would work because I would like to get some, fine lines here and there. But we just got to work with what we got for now. That's kind of how it goes as an artist. You're always pretty much working with what you got. The artists can do that. Then the song is over. Oh, it did continue on. Oh, good. So we're going to have a darker area right in this area, and it's a kind of a fine line, so I'm going to go back to my pencil. Sometimes it's good to move around your picture as you're working to keep your guidelines in place. So this is definitely this line here, so you don't lose it, while you're working, and then your picture gets distorted. Go back in and darken this part a little bit. Make sure I keep my line in there. Kind of give it a hair texture. Coming from that line, pulling downward strokes to create the bottom lip, the bottom part of his mouth, or her mouth. Kind of looks like a her. I'm not applying too much pressure again. I don't want to leave indents and scratches in my paper. That's the whole point of layers, is soft, one layer upon another, gently. Just take your time. I'm going to switch over to the lighter, the harder pencil, so I don't have quite as dark shading going on in here. This part of the mouth. And I'm trying not to go over top of the parts that are going to be whiter. Just kind of leaving those be. No, now my cat is harassing me to come in. Kind of needy. Oh my goodness. If I let her in, then she'll start harassing me to sit on my lap. She's the sweetest, most cuddly little cat. She will not stop scratching at the door. I would show you, I would turn the video, but my camera, my video camera is attached to my overhead light, just so if I move it, it's going to get all funky and it won't. I got this light, magnifying lamp, and it has an adjustable tilting head. And the stupid, I don't know what it is with me and supplies, but the first day I used it, the knob stripped out. So now it doesn't stay in place where I want it. And if I get it where I want it, I don't touch it again. I just, it's so particular. So that's why I'm not like showing you other parts of my studio and things while I'm working. Eventually, I'll get it all set up. All right, so then you know how you have the spots where the whiskers come out of. I'm just going to kind of go over that a little bit with my blending salt. So those are guidelines as well. You want to keep those in place and not lose them in your work. You don't want to push too hard. You just want to make sure they're there. And it does matter the amount of pressure you apply with your blending stomp. Obviously, if you press harder, it will leave darker marks. I always use just a really light touch and just do mini layers. That's just how I work. All artists are different. Everybody has their own style. So yeah, this is my white pastel pencil that I have yet to get to use. I'm going to attempt it again. Well, maybe I'll get lucky. You never know. I'm going to try and sharpen it. This is a good pencil sharpener. It's not my pencil sharpener. It's brand new, so I know it's not the blade. And it just broke off just like that. I didn't even start to sharpen and it broke. So that's so frustrating. So we're just going to have to do it the hard way. So when you have fine lines that you want to get and you can't get your pencil to work, use your, either you can see my pastel pencil or pastel is getting a little rounded, so it doesn't have the sharp edges like I'm looking for. So I'm just going to use a blending stomp, the little one, if I can find one on hand. This one's a little, the one I've been using has some other pastel colors on it. I don't want to incorporate that into my picture. I do have this eraser that came with my kit. I'm going to try and use that instead. There's just a little spot right here at the edge of the nose that's kind of a white, definite white line. That just blended it. It didn't make it white. Well, here we go. Here's a teeny tiny little piece of pastel that I have that does have a sharp point on it. So we're going to go with that. And it just kind of starts. We have this line that's just above this little line here. There we go. And I just went a little too far over, so I'm just going to blend that in a little. I'm kind of a perfectionist. I tend to get carried away in the details. I kind of like this pastel. I'm just going to keep using it, I think. Get some more of the highlights on the nose. Some hair strokes in here. He's getting there. I think I'm going to work a little bit in the fur underneath the mouth to give the mouth more definition here. Just keep pulling the fur down. In fact, I'm going to use my finger to really soften that. If you'd like to follow me, check in the description. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, and as well as my website. I do have to say I've been really unhappy with Facebook lately. They just tend not to post my posts until 2 or 3 days later, if at all. And vice versa. I don't see other people's posts sometimes at all. They've gotten to where if you're not giving them money, they're not gonna share your stuff. So I'm leaning more towards Instagram now for posting, sharing what I'm up to. And that would be Wise Tales Art. That's how you can always find me on Facebook, all of the social media. It'll be under Wise Tales Art. Pulling it down from that line, from the top of the mouth, the top part of this, I don't know what you call muzzle. If you're watching, just say hi. All right, this is looking pretty good. I'm finally getting some detail in the mouth, some depth and texture and dimension. And then it's going to be more white in here. A little bit on the bottom of the muzzle down here. Just using my blending stomp again to add some of that flowing texture in the mane. We'll do the mane later. I'm just trying to get the outline in here of the mouth so that we can see it, and then we'll flip it back over and work on the mane. Which we're almost to that point. I just want to get the face done, and then we'll work on that fun mane. Oh boy, sounds like the news is coming on. I'm so sorry about the music, you guys. It's just really, it's not fun. There's too many rules. Just adding in some more fur texture to the top of his nose, snout. Again, always following the direction of the way the fur flows and the length of the fur. And then darken this in a little bit here around the eye. It may not look like it's shading it darker, but it is, and that's what I want. I want it to be very light. Some fur texture in there. Make that a little darker right there. I'll sure be glad when summer is over. I am tired of being hot. I'm going to do some more darkening around the eyeball. Again, You don't have to try and get your lines in there with your soft pastel. It's pretty impossible to do. Just lay down some pigment and then spread it around with your blending stomp. Sometimes you have to clean your blending stomp. I just have a paper towel off to the side that I kind of wipe it off on to get it back to no color. Lowering the excess. I got my new ukulele last night. I'm so happy. It's awesome. One of these days when I learn a song, I will post a video. I'm very musical as well. I grew up playing the piano and the violin and the clarinet. And now I decided I want a ukulele, something I can take and travel with me whenever I go places. Darken it again around the top of the eyeball. Gently. Alright, just continue doing some more brush strokes. Some hair strokes. I think we're just about finished with the face. Basically, I just laid down some color, and then I'm going to use my blending stomp to go in and soften those edges. So I think this needs to be a little darker in the ear, because right now it's kind of the same shade. This is the same shade of gray as this, and I want this to be darker. So I'm going to come in with my medium charcoal pencil again and just add more layers of texture. And it carries on across the top into this hair here. I'm using my white pastel to add some white. Adding the white pastel makes the texture much softer and blendable instead of just leaving the white paper below. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not the way I draw. I like to use the white pastel mixed in to give us more pigment to work with. I think it gives it a little more depth and texture to add the white in there. It'll look more detailed if you just leave the white underneath the white paper, which is cool. I think that's neat too. I just want it to be really soft. I'm just going to use my finger to kind of push it into the paper a little. Again, like I said, it's just practice, practice, practice. You gotta get to know your tools, the paper, and yourself. So if you enjoyed watching me draw this wolf, please give me a thumbs up below. Subscribe and share if you'd like. Alright, so again on this ear, I'm noticing that the colors are the same on each side of this line, and it should be slightly darker on this part. So I'm just going to use my blending stone. I'll clean off some of the white pastels that got on there. And just drag the color out on this line. Good. Some definition over here. There's like a little white hairs on the very edge. You aren't going to be able to see them very well until we add stuff around the outside. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I think I'm going to flip it around now. And then we will work on the bottom of the mane. We want a nice flowing in there. Okay. I'm going to take my white pastel and I'm just going to start flowing. Let's get some of these to flow of the hair. Use my fingers to blend. Again, you're not going to be able to see the whites as much until you go in and do your definition with the darker colors. We're just getting this pigment in here to soften with. Always follow the direction and flow of the fur. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing some definition with my medium charcoal pencil. And by definition, I mean like the edges of the, well, there's like clumps of fur. Where it kind of goes around the edges of a big clump of fur and the edges of another big clump of fur. Just following my reference photo, looking at my reference photo. It's not going to be exactly the same as what you're following. It'll be your own. And you don't even have to follow the reference photo exactly. You can kind of just go in your own flow. I do want to get this movement, this where the fur flows. That's kind of what I'm trying to capture. And back and forth from light to dark. And I use my blending stomp to kind of go in and darken, smooth out. So usually what I do when I sketch, I do, like I said, lots of layers. And the way I achieve those many layers is I use a fixative between, I work as far as I can until there's just really nothing else happening. No matter what I do, that's when you know it's time to apply your fixative, let it dry, and then go on again with more layers. And that's how you're going to really achieve the dark contrasts. But we're not going to do that. It just takes so much more time to do that. But you got the gist of what you have to do. Again, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. By adding the white pastel in there in the main, that also keeps the dark from getting too dark. And this keeps it nice and soft. Also, another thing when you spray your fixative, it does allow you to go over your whites and they'll become much whiter. I love fixative. A lot of artists or people who are learning don't understand that fixative isn't a top coat. Fixative is just what it says, it's fixative. It's workable, which means you can spray on it and you can continue adding later layers on top of it and blending. And it just allows you to get much more depth into your work. But like I said, we're not going to do that because it does take a lot longer. Obviously, you're going to do your entire painting over and over and over until you just can't get any more pigment into the paper. I never apply fixative on my final coat because it does take away your white highlights on the final product. If you added white on top of it, it'll make them stay nice and white. Also, fixative allows the pigment to bond to your paper better, which makes your painting last a lot longer lifespan. Use my finger to blend it. And we're starting to get more of that bird texture and depth. I'm really happy with this pad of paper I'm using. It's a nice, thick, soft paper. It really allows for many layers and blending. You can never get this effect with printer paper. So I don't ever recommend creating a nice piece of art on a piece of printer paper. When you put this much time and energy and effort into something, you want it to last. Back in with the darks and blending it into the whites. By blending in, I mean just connecting them together. So you can get the strokes in there. Again, not pressing very hard, just lightly blending, smoothing. Sorry, you can't really see what I'm doing down here at the bottom where I'm working. The paper. Well, let me see if I can gently move that. Hopefully it doesn't flop over. There we go. I usually take some breaks while I'm working. It helps to walk away and then come back. You kind of get a, I don't know the word for it, but you kind of lose where you are when you work for a long period of time on something. It's good to take a break, go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, get some munchies, stretch out a little bit, and then come back, and then you'll see it again from a fresher perspective and see where you need to add more work. Once you get a lot more layers on than this with your pastels and your charcoal, you start to get kind of like a clay, a really thin clay layer going. And that's exactly what it is. Pastels are like clay, which gives you a little bit of depth to sculpt with. And that's the point I really like to get my work at, through layer upon layer upon layer until it becomes more of like a clay texture that I can sculpt. Like I said, that takes many, many layers. We're not going to do that tonight. It just takes a lot of time. All right. Now what I think I'm going to do is kind of just do just a shadowing in the background and really make the wolf pop more. The way I do that is just take your pencil, and just a soft one that you can blend. You could even use a pastel. Just going to turn this around. I'm just going to lightly just start shading it, coming almost to just where it just barely touches the wolf. Doesn't really matter the direction of your strokes. The point is that you just really don't want to see any stroke marks. You just want to be shading. So again, don't press hard, just very lightly. I'm using the hard pencil. Doesn't matter, you can use whichever one you want. This is just going to leave it a lighter. It's always good to start light and work your way up to the dark. So it doesn't really matter. You can just kind of do circles if you wanted, and then you can blend. See, so now I'm seeing that it's not blending as much as I want, so I can go ahead and just switch over to my medium pencil. Sorry, you can't see that. I just went in to blend with my finger, and it does blend lightly, just not as much as I wanted. I'll just go ahead and finish blending that out so it's all uniform. It's okay to overlap your wolf. You can go back in with your white pastel and add the white hairs. just going to go ahead and use my darker pastel or charcoal pencil. In fact, you can even just use charcoal, a charcoal stick. Very lightly. And you know, it is good. I didn't mention we should have probably taped the edges. I kind of get lazy or get in a hurry sometimes and skip that part. It gives your paper a little finished look and brings your image down so that it's not covered up when you frame and mat your picture. I did leave some room because I was aware of that. The next video, I will show you how to tape it down. Then just go in with your finger and blend. I'm going to turn it over to work on the other part. It does make a difference when if you blend it and then you go over again, rather than trying to apply all of the color at once. It makes the second layer go down a little better. That's what I'm doing. I'm just getting this layer in there, and then we'll go over again. Using layers. And if you don't want to use your, charcoal doesn't cover as much as pastels. You can use your pastel. And it doesn't have to be completely black. You can gradient it so it's darker at the bottom. See how much better that blends than the charcoal did? Yeah, that's nice. For large areas, pastels are much better than trying to get the depth of color with charcoal. And I'm going to flip it around again and come over on this side again. Pastels are messy. You're going to have a lot of residue all over your desk. If I were to do this wolf again, which I probably will, I think I would do it on black paper with my white pastels. See how that just really made the wolf just come alive, just glowing white. You gotta have the contrast between the light and the dark. See either one of them. Oh, I hope my lamp doesn't flop over. It's okay to come in close. Like I said, we'll come back in with our white pastel and refine the white hairs on the edges. I'm really liking it with the dark brown on the edges. And more. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Like I said, if there's any questions, leave them in the comments. I will answer them. I'll go ahead and just a little bit. I'm just going to kind of get this shape. See me? It's looking pretty good. A little bit more here. See, I'm not worrying too much about the edges. We'll go over top of it and the whites will look whiter now. Alright, let's flip it back around. Clean my fingers off a little bit. This is what you look like. And I'm going to take my white pastel Take this one and go in and find my white fur. Nope, I'm going to switch over. I like the Rembrandts the best. Lemon salt, very lightly. Smooth it, shake it. Because the pastels are a lot like clay. I know I call this a charcoal pencil. Rarely ever use just one form of medium. I'm always mixing it up. Yes, I think we're pretty close to just being finished here. Good enough. Obviously, I would do some more on the background. I don't really want to take the time and have you watching me, boringly fill in all of that with the black. So I hope you had fun. I had fun. I'm pretty happy with my wolf. I think she's pretty. Of course, I am a perfectionist. I would continue working on this. Who knows how much longer? You get the gist of it. And you could also continue working on yours longer. And I would love to see anything, what you guys come up with. If you wanted to share what you've painted. So, leave me a link in the comments. I'll check it out. All right, well, I think that's probably the point where you say good enough for now. Like I said, I could continue working on a painting forever. I probably would on this one. I'll just keep going and going and building up those layers of texture in the fur. I'm just going to have to cut it short because it is very hot, like I said, and I don't have air conditioner. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to see you next time. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Turn on the little bell notification if you'd like to be notified next time I do a live drawing or upload a video. time. Done.